to welcome the What It Takes group today. It's an absolutely amazing initiative. We've done a few of these over the years, but it's incredible to have one in this module talking about nutrition and what comes next. And nothing better than to have our alumni with us. So Esther, who we've got online, we've got Hugh in the middle, William on this side, and Sabrina here. Okay, so all of these students have all come through the University of Westminster. They've all got experiences which are very different, because they've all done different routes, different pathways, different years. Well, almost different years. Wow. Two of you are the same, yes. Right? So it's lovely to be able to see where their journeys have gone as we're going forward. Now, essentially, we've got this panel to give you their experiences, not because we've self-selected individual students who are going to only tell you good things about Westminster, but because they're all different stories. We haven't asked them to tell us anything positive or not. I can block my ears if I need to, if it's anything negative about me. But we really are opening this to you to find out what you want to know, to get advice about what comes next when you're thinking about those next stages, and I know lots of you are already. So we're going to have a little presentation from each of them. They're going to give you their perspectives, and then we're going to open up to some Q&A. So if anyone's got any questions that are inspired by the talks or about your own plans and what you're looking at just now, get those written down so you remember them at the end. Finally, we're going to have a little social session. So it's amazing that Hayden and the team have got some food for you all, obviously very healthy, because nutritionists never eat anything they shouldn't, right? I'm wondering where the red wine is, but we'll not worry about that. Okay.
In my bag.
Oh, it's in William's bag. I was going to say there's some in the office. The other thing I was going to say is that obviously the session's going to be recorded, because we want you to be able to go back and to think about this after the event. We know how much we miss when we don't do that. So we've got a recorded session, but the Q&A part won't be, is that right? It's just the presentations that will be. There's going to be around 30 minutes for that Q&A at the end, and obviously I'm hoping you guys can all stay around for coffee, and hopefully Jane will be coming down to join as well later on, so you can do a little bit more networking as we go forward. Can I ask everyone to just try and be quiet while the speakers are presenting, so that we can, one, capture it beautifully and be able to listen back as often as we want to, and also that if you need to leave for whatever reason within the session, just that you try to wait for a break, just to make sure that we can try and minimise disruption as we're going forward. When we're doing any questions, we may use a microphone to make sure that we can pick that up so that they can all hear what you want to say. And obviously, if you're rustling around in bags or whatever, the microphone behind you is going to pick everything up. So if you can just try and be as quiet, that would be brilliant. Finally, we will be sharing the recording with you after the session, so we'll get that to you all through the Blackboard site for the module, and for all of you as attendees, we'll get that. Okay, does anyone have any burning questions before we start? No? Okay, so no one hopefully is going to have to wee in the middle and walk past the camera. Hopefully. Okay, right, so I want to start by introducing the panellists. And do you want me to introduce you all together, or one and then do the talk?
Up to you.
Let me do. Well, we did them all at the start. Let's do them all at the start. Okay. I feel like I don't need to do. Okay. So I'm going to start with Esther, who's online. So Esther, sorry, I should make you big so we can all see Esther.
Oh, please don't.
Oh no, come on. There we go. There you are. You're nice and big now. Okay, so Esther was a student. I can't remember what year you were, Esther, but a student in our nutrition program who always had a real interest in yoga and sort of intersective awareness and all the different ways that we stop and we really think about behaviour change. So this girl was unbelievably active in terms of working full time while she was studying. And so, yeah, multitasking queen, I think we're going to call Esther for today, which obviously is wonderful. And a lot of the graduates today are really coming with their own stories and about how they juggled all of that stuff, whether it's children or commuting or family pressures, different sporting commitments, whatever those were. So do think about those things that you find as big challenges as you're going forward, and think about how you can potentially learn from that and use them to direct you. We also have Sabrina, And so Sabrina, I don't even know what you've gone off to do now, and I did look before I came, which says it all. Sabrina was always the student that came to class with a big grin on her face, and it would take her like 20 minutes to actually tell you whatever it was that was a sort of, I know I'm stressed about something, but never would come straight out and tell us. Now, I look around the room, and I see that every single lecture that I have. When you say it, we can help. So it's brilliant to have you back. It's ages since I've seen you.
It is
absolutely lovely to see you back. William was in the same cohort as Sabrina, and so two different perspectives from the same year group, which I think is really, really nice. And William came in wanting to be a dietitian, and I never persuaded him not to do that. So you all know what I do to get you to rethink different choices and to really question them all the way through your course. So we're going to get William's perspective on all of that. And Q has, well, she's kind of done lots of different things. So Q has done her degree with us. She then went off to Imperial to do her master's over there. I taught her on that master's as well, which was lovely. And then she came back to Westminster and is working more in qualitative research, but with Sanjoy, and is just about to submit, hopefully, and is just about to finish her PhD, is now working as a lecturer down in Southampton. So we're delighted to have you all here, and thank you so much for giving us your time today. There's no particular order for you guys to do your presentation, but I'd like to hand over, do we do it? Who would like to go first? Sabrina?
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to start with Sabrina then. So I hand it to you. Thank you so much.
So I graduated in 2020, which was very fun at the start of the pandemic. Just finished my degree, I think, on a Tuesday afternoon, closed the labs and been like done 3 years. I think William's here feels very related to that.
Same feeling.
Yeah, and during my degree, I don't know if it's the same now, but you could choose whether to go within the sports and exercise route or the public health. I chose sports. I was a tennis player my whole life. I was very much sport, and I thought, I was 100% sure that I was doing a master's in physiology of exercise and then doing a PhD. That did not happen. I changed my mind very randomly and ended up doing a master's in eating disorders and clinical nutrition in UCL, so very different to what I thought. And Claire, what you said, I feel so related. You kept, you know, every time someone be like, oh, I'm doing this, you're like, are you sure? How do you think of all of this? And yeah, so very related to that. And now I did my master's part-time while I was working as a clinical support worker in an eating disorder outpatient clinic. I now work as a nutritionist in a therapy outpatient as well clinic, but obviously within eating disorders. So yeah, that's a bit about me, I guess.
Shall I go?
Sure.
So I graduated in 2020. Together, that was kind of weird because you submit your dissertation, you don't know what's coming next, and then you actually, I didn't realize that I graduated until probably the pandemic finished. And then I started to kind of search, find a job, send an email to all the hospitals I wanted to work in as a dietitian later on, and find a job as a dietetic assistant. And mainly that is not really advertised out there. You need to send an email and try to get some support, and yes, you try. It is difficult, but you can find. And then I wanted to do the master. I applied the first year, it didn't work. I applied the second year, I got a place in Cardiff, but it didn't work. I wasn't happy, and I discussed with my partner. None of us really wanted to move. I was happy working at Great Ormond Street. So I contacted the London Met, and I actually do another degree, 3-year course. And it worked perfectly, to be honest. It's much easier, it's faster, in a way that all the coursework are much, I mean, I'm working full-time still, and I can do it both at the same time. And also, probably the way that you manage the stress and the organization growing up, and you understand a little bit more, probably. But I'm happy. I don't have any concern, and I'm still going to become a dietitian at the end of the journey. Unfortunately, Great Ormond Street wasn't really working with the degree because I wanted to work full-time, but I couldn't. So I started to work as a nutritionist for Viva and work in a diabetes remission program. Everything is remote, so I'm working from home. I just see my manager through the camera, which is brilliant, you know. And but yeah, that is the journey: studying, working, and today here. Maybe one day I will teach here. Who knows?
So my name's Q. I hopefully you've read the bio, but I think what Claire summarised is pretty much, that's me. So I started actually a long journey, starting in the foundation from level 3 in 2013 when I joined the cohort at Westminster. And by the time I finished my PhD, I would spend my whole decade of life here, going through actually the whole life cycle, the student life cycle. So I did the foundation, went on to do the bachelor's, then went on to do, I didn't do the master's here, went on to do an MRes and Imperial, based on the fact that it's a master by research rather than a taught master. And then after that, a year out, I then worked at, in a kind of outside of academia at the Institute of Food Science and Technology, so IFST. After that, I was very lucky enough to get a studentship here. So I started my PhD journey in 2019, and I'm currently, it's coming to the end of my 6-month write-up, and just submitting soon. At the same time, I started my write-up in 2022. End of September, I took on a full-time permanent role lecturing at Solent, and being the only academic, actually being the only nutrition academic across the whole institution, has been a learning curve, let's just say, for the past 6 months, and I just passed my 6-month probation as well. Aside from that, I do a lot of stuff, which I call stuff like extracurricular activities. So one of the things is I chair the student section at the Nutrition Society. You're a member of the Nutrition Society, that's probably seen my name around. And we do a lot of stuff in terms of, for example, I'm hosting a career session later on this evening, we do journal clubs. The big thing will be the Nutrition Future Student Conference that we host every year in September. So that's aside from Nutrition and the Society. I also chair the South East branch at the IFST, so it's Institute of Food Science and Technology. We're also involved with other professional societies and bodies like the Physiological Society, the UK SBM, so the Society of Behavioural Medicine, the list goes on. But you can ask me questions about that, and that's pretty much about me. So I've kind of gone into, have a bit of insight into industry, working with academia, in academia now, and bringing, and working with students, and I think being academic, I see the other side, of which I really enjoy so far. It hasn't scared me away yet.
Esther.
I guess that's me left. I started also with the foundation year, and I graduated in 2021, so we didn't have a graduation. I had that last year, which is kind of weird, kind of like 1 year after the fact that you graduate. And yes, like as Claire said, during uni I had like life on 1,000 miles going forward, never stopping, which they had some drawbacks, but you'll learn it on your own skin, I think, maybe, soon. I was really into sports and exercise nutrition. That was definitely my favorite module, and Claire's module, like, all the way through, of course. And I was really interested in wanting to continue as sports and exercise, in sports and exercise nutrition. That didn't happen. So very similar to Sabrina, that was kind of my route, and I finished uni, and somehow I fell into kind of public health, and I started working with a charity who do programs, all sorts of health programs for the community, basically, and my role within that was in a weight management program, as first a leader of the program and then as lead nutritionist. And I really quickly kind of learned that's not for me, and I really want to be as far from it as potentially possible. Eventually I got to the point now where I'm setting up my own practice. I have qualified as a Pilates instructor during I was at university, so I've always had that as like a side gig. I also worked as a dietetic assistant for, well, I don't know how long exactly, but during university, and I also worked a lot in kind of hospitality and kind of side gigs that you would do just to, you know, pay the bills. But now, really, after the huge shift from kind of really wanting to go into sports, I've really seen everything, or at least that side of public health as well, that was really what I never was into super much. And now I'm so far from sports and public health that I really want to just kind of turn my practice into like a very non-diet based, non-diet approaches, health and exercise, and really weight inclusive care, basically, which is definitely not what's in public health. So yeah, a little bit kind of against the grain, but I'm kind of enjoying it. It's a little bit terrifying. So very terrifying, I can't be honest, but it's also really fun, and it's nice to connect with like-minded, professionals like Sabrina. I think she's also in the non-diet space, and it's a lot to learn. It's, I think, something that we don't put quite enough emphasis on. Whilst we're at uni, I really didn't have any idea what that was, and it was all really in the weight-centered I guess, approaches. That was the middle of what I thought was the thing, was nutrition, right? And yeah, I think it's just to keep in mind, like, you think something now and it might be the total opposite in like a year or two once you're into it. So try as much as you can. That's generally, I know no one asked for advice yet, but that's literally like first advice. Try everything. Don't be afraid, just go for it, and you'll see what fits and what doesn't, and just leave it and just go for more.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Esther. Right, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, because you know me, I've always got a question about everything.
I think the main things that was quite challenging, it was to manage everything. Mainly because I'm quite competitive. I always have the thought that 30 of us will graduate, 30 of us will apply for the same job. What can I do to make it different? So while I was studying, I did volunteer. I volunteered here at the university outside, and still was working probably around 30-35 hours a week. So that was the main challenge: how to balance everything. And also, you might have a relationship, you have friends, you want to go out, you want to enjoy your life. You don't want to just, work and study. So that was the main challenge to find the balance. A little bit of organization, perhaps have a chat with some professor, or even people around you. They might find a way to give you some tips and idea how to find the right balance. That was the main challenge for me at the beginning.
Thank you, William. I think that's really, something you can probably all relate to as well. How do you cram it all in? Brilliant. What about you, Sabrina?
For me, I think it was quite different. It was more that, obviously, when you go to an undergrad, there's so many areas of nutrition that you can end up working. Perfect sample here. That there's so many classes that I'll be like, I don't find this interesting. Well, others I'll be like, I love this. Can I just study this all day and completely ignore the other part? And at the end, I realized actually it was interesting something completely different that I didn't know. So then I was like, well, that actually served the purpose. So I did need that, even though I was in class being like, I don't want to learn this right now. Can I just have an extra one of the other one and remove this one, because why am I writing an essay with this? And then in my master's, and now I'm like, oh yeah, that was actually important. Like, they knew what they were teaching me. So yeah, I think that was probably what I found the hardest for it.
Do you know, as an academic, and I don't know, Kay, whether you've got the same experience, but I'm teaching chemistry this year, and I'm absolutely loving it. It's been so much fun. Level 3 chemistry, and the students are looking at me like I've got 3 heads going, why do I need to learn this stuff? But it's really interesting when you start to take it down to the molecular structure and you start thinking about things, so I totally get that.
Yeah.
Esther, what about you? Starting up a business. We don't do many different things that are all about entrepreneurial development.
I mean, to be fair, whilst I was at uni, I think juggling everything and having enough time to write things and do uni work was definitely really, really hard, and I'm sure that you can all relate. But I think for me personally, I'm probably the only one on the panel who doesn't have a master's or a PhD, or is not lecturing. I've got the BSc Human Nutrition, and I at some point thought that I would go for a master's, and then I just didn't feel like I wanted to or I needed it, in a way that I was always more interested in actually working with people and learning from that and actually getting the experience rather than the academic side of things. So academy is great, and all that. I really enjoyed being at uni, but I found it really hard to try and think about how this all would be when you talk to people. How do you talk to people about these things, right? What's the way? What are they going to react? How are they going to react? What are they going to think? how to share this information, not to overwhelm. So for me, it was always I was always kind of missing and was struggling with actually that need and want to put it in practice and get that experience through people you talk to, even if your goal at the moment is like not one-to-one. I always knew that was what I wanted to do, and within sports, so I didn't have like a topic issue, but that definitely was something that for me I was really missing.
Thank you, it's really, really nice. And I think a lot of you are in that situation right now. You're thinking, do I go back to university, study again? Do I get out into the big world? There's a lot to learn, isn't there, from going out and learning in a role to decide where the next step is, and possibly doing that before you commit to spending another 12 months of working, or 18 months probably for some roles, or several years, Q, in terms of pushing things through and going down that academic route. But there's strengths for both, and it's really important to think about that and to be true to what you want to do. So Q, you have done lots and lots of different things. What do you think is the key Westminster undergraduate, if you can remember back, that you learned that you can relate to now?
I think the question that I asked myself back then, and I ask myself again nowadays, is who am I? I think it's the identity. Who is it that you want to be in the community or within the discipline? Of course, I chose the undergrad, the human nutrition. I didn't go to sports side like my three colleagues here, but actually I ended up having to lead the sports nutrition now. So I'm like, oh, I wish I'd taken more. I wish I'd tried to love that physiology less, all those exercise module, because I myself now have to convince my students that I love it, whereas that's the module that I really put the most work into it, to really understand it, understand the chemistry behind it, the body system, not just the human nutrition, it's the foods, the whole thing. But actually going back to the first point is who am I? Who is it that I want to be? Yes, I think it's the challenge of when I chose my undergraduate degree. The project is, what is it that I want to do? So I went down into the public health / epidemiology, kind of Claire's area. She's kind of convinced me somewhat. So then I kind of loved it. I now had that passion to then move on to master, doing something similar, and then move into the PhD, something similar. So, but then coming out from that and coming to the adult working, kind of being academic now, is like, who am I? How do I get out of that transition of being a student into academic? That's the thing that I find it most challenging right now. Or perhaps I was literally just being thrown into a deep end, and something, yes, as an undergrad I had that opportunity, or actually my PhD, or to teach, but it's nothing like going into the real world. You've got hundreds of students, over 100 students depending on you. You are in control. There's no one else who does the same topic. You're under control. But one thing I've learned is that, and across actually undergrad or masters or whatever, is to try and keep calm on the outside, but crazy like it inside. And I think that's the thing, that you need that motivation, that perseverance, that resilience to push through everything. Not just as a PhD or your masters or your undergrad you're finishing, but it's about how when you're applying to different jobs. Yes, you'll get rejected many times, but it's how you will bounce back. It's what makes you you. So my tip here is to find yourself, find who you are in the community, find how do you fit in your discipline. Yes, if you want to go down a sports route, great, but how do you fit in there? Or if you want to go to research and academic, wonderful. I'm sure Claire will love that. But how is it? What is your niche? What do you want to be an expert in? I think that's kind of answers my own question of who is it that you want to be, your own identity. I mean, the first 10, the next 10, finished my student life, 10 years done. Starting to think that, so yeah, finishing my PhD, get a few more letters, but actually I think going upwards and be a bit more expert into what I'm doing, into my research. So something I've learned at Westminster, it's not just about my degree, it's all the extra stuff that comes on top. So I've done a lot of pedagogy, the learning and teaching, the students co-creates project. That's the one thing that you've probably heard at Westminster. So I've done a lot, something that I've collaborated with Claire as well in the past. It's to my big goal, my ideal goal, if there's a job like this, is to merge the nutrition with the student engagement pedagogy together, have my own research group, and develop projects coming out from that. I mean, I'm starting to work on it at the moment. I've got consultants because I'm supervising students, and that's a bit scary, Claire. But it's more about building myself. Hopefully I can be an expert in my own tiny niche area.
I think that's really, really worth thinking about actually. When you're a student, I think Sabrina actually mentioned it earlier, you start off with all this knowledge of nutrition and you find there's one thing you think, I want to do more of that, I want to do more. That's what a PhD is all about. And you end up realising you don't just know your pinky finger, it's only the fingernail and the white bit on the end of your fingernail that you actually know about. The rest of the body is all the stuff that you don't feel expert in. But when you go in to teach, you have to use those core principles to be able to reflect on that and think about how much you know and how to use that knowledge. And sometimes you might find you're blagging it a little bit, but it's really nice to be able to use that pedagogy to feed back and say, well, what do you guys know? Because right now, you're the experts in your project area. And you're the people that can talk about that skill set more than your supervisors possibly can. So it's really nice. I love learning from you all. Absolutely love those questions. Rowinka, you're the queen of questions. And it's brilliant to hear that when you bounce back to us. So we love that interaction. And I know it's what has kept me in this job for as long, because you all come from such different backgrounds, different perspectives. So William, what about you? What do you see as next step?
So,
Or
very
sorry,
good
10
question.
years goal, come on.
Well, 10 years. Well, hopefully 5. Let's see. I'm actually changing my mind probably every year. As soon as I start to do something and then I start to understand that I like, that I enjoy, I might kind of move on. And I start this degree thinking, oh, I want to focus on nutrition and sexual health. And then from there, I want to do dietetics in clinic. Then I start to do a little bit of research project, my individual one, but also some volunteer. I was like, I enjoy. Then when I start to work in the clinical, in the hospital, they do a lot of research there. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna do my degree in dietetics, become a dietitian, do some research within the hospital where I'm working. You can collect lots of data there. But then I changed it. I don't want to work in sexual health. I really enjoy diabetes now when I'm working. Again, I will have a placement soon, which will last for about 6 months. And I'm sure I will change again my mind probably. And I love gastro, and I love nephrology, so all of that, again, I need lots of knowledge that I gained from this degree, and probably I still need to go back and lecture. But yeah, not quite sure, but definitely I know that I want to be a dietitian and still probably working in research when I do my degree, while I'm working.
I love that, always learning. So the field changes so quick, right? So things that you guys have got to tackle in terms of the size of the field is what you guys are experiencing real time, which is great. What about you, Sabrina? I'm still excited to see her at Wimbledon, and it's not happened yet.
Maybe I could just go watch it.
Yeah.
Look at it.
That is
I
worth
think
doing.
that's as far as we're getting. I absolutely love my job. I love what I do. I think I found my area in this field. So I think, like Esther said, I think like eating disorders or disorder eating gets sometimes forgotten when it's nutrition. It's like, oh, we have to eat super healthy and just this and forget about that. Sugar, absolutely ban it, when the other side can be just as unhealthy and dangerous, and it's just about actually finding a balance. How can I take care of my physical health but also my mental health? That's just as important. So I definitely want to keep growing that side. I know I definitely want to keep doing that. I also love social media. No, I absolutely love putting information out there, and I think it's an area that you can be a bit more creative as well. I guess when you work in this can be very scientific, and it's just reading paper after paper and just analyzing everything. But then turning that information into something actually creative that everyone can understand and can teach something to everyone and work towards like the prevention of it more is something that I really enjoy. So that's something I also do on my part-time. I just love to just create videos and content and just put it out there for anyone who probably doesn't have access to that information, or just to create a bit of curiosity and be like, oh, what, well, I never thought of that. Maybe I can actually, have that glass of wine, but let's pair it with a salad. Why not? Just have that actual balance. So yeah, so for now, I love working where I'm working. I started not long ago. I also do my private practice on the side and just keep growing in that sense and keep creating the content as well. So I think that's very happy with that.
Brilliant, that's great. Thank you. And I have to ask you this one question. So I disagree with hypocaloric diets. I think we should eat more to lose weight. So from an eating disorder perspective, from the over-nutrition side, how often do you think that people are starving themselves and leading to weight gain because of it?
Clearly, I think I'm probably very biased because where I work, it's pretty much everyone. So I'm very much in that field. However, I think if we looked at nutrition instead of, I think we're very used to looking at restricting and what can I take off my diet instead of what can I add. I think that can make a massive difference. So instead of being like, oh, I'm never having this again, being like, oh, maybe what can I add to it to support my blood sugar and keep me satisfied and full for longer and add a bit more, nutrition instead. I think that will be a lot more sustainable, and just starting to trust our body to tell how much to eat. Like, it's great at telling us how much we need. So instead of just relying on external factors such as, I don't know, calorie counting apps and things like that, I think that would be definitely a better approach.
Brilliant, and I'd love that in social media, so get it sorted. She now has a life work ahead of her, what Claire wants to see. And what about you, Esther? Where are you going to be in 10 years' time?
Well, firstly, amen, Sabrina. Absolutely 100% agreed. My, at the moment, thoughts I've kind of come from the working way too much, not having a day off kind of thing. I kind of floated into that after university. So uni was a huge rush, and I really wanted it first, and it was like, yeah, I'm going to get that first, and yes. And I did, which is yay, but I kind of kept going, and I got to the point, I think, when I got really burnt out, and I had literally no days off. And so at the moment, I have taken a huge step back and really look at it, look at my work-life balance like it exists, because before it didn't really. And so I'm definitely working less, but I'm also really choosing who I work with and how I work with them. So as I mentioned, I've also now finished working for the charity that I worked for. And so I'm really focusing into building my own practice and my own business. So, and that's Pilates and nutrition. So for me, the two are really tied together. It's movement and it's health, it's well-being, it's all mental health as well. So that's what I'm kind of planning to run and build. And kind of wherever it goes, I don't have like super specific plans. I love working one-to-ones, and I think that's something that I like to keep, but it is a lot of energy, and it's a lot of focus, and it is a lot of listening. So it has to be somewhere a balance where I think there's also partially something that comes from more of like maybe a group-based kind of more educational program maybe that I set up at some point, or a workshop, create an online course, something like that. So I'm definitely looking into kind of expanding so that I'm not always kind of required to show up. Sometimes you just don't really want to, and that's okay. And I want to be able to make the choice not to if I don't feel like I can. So in 10 years, I mean, the short answer, I guess, is that I want to have a Pilates studio that is mine, which is 2 rooms. One is the Pilates studio with all the performers. If you've done Pilates, you know what I'm talking about. If not, you're like, what? With all the machines, and then one little separate room where I see clients, potentially face-to-face, which I do online at the moment, which is also really great. And that's kind of my ideal scenario, I guess, and kind of having time to take if I feel like, and just let the business run itself after a while, hopefully, if I then have a little bit more of that expansion of maybe courses and other things, ebooks and such, that kind of create like a constant income. That's not something that I have to be there for, basically. So it's this sounds really a lot, I know, because you're like at university and you're like, what? This is like way too much. But again, it's something that you'll definitely have to think about, and maybe it's potentially good to start thinking about now, like really what you want your life to be like, and who you are. Like, so it's still kind of just building that bit now with my business. That's part of, okay, who I really am, who I want to be, who do you want other people to see you, and not because of, oh my god, I'm so terrified of what they think about me, but it's just really for yourself, Right? Are you happy with who you are and what you do and how you contribute? And does that make you feel, fulfilled? So I'm still working on that. But it's always learning, that's partially as well.
I think that's been a message from all four of you, which has been absolutely wonderful. So at least we did our job right. So we're meant to be inspiring you to love nutrition and to keep on wanting to learn more. I've asked loads of questions. I'm hoping that they've answered some of them. But I wondered if any of you guys had any questions for the speakers.
I have to say that when it was second year here and you had the option of doing exercise nutrition or public nutrition, I was like, that is the easiest choice ever. Like, I'm not even have to read the other options. I don't want metabolic biochemistry. I don't need that. Teach me all the physiology. I'm glad I did because I absolutely loved it. That was my absolute favorite. Loved the physiology, loved all of that. However, my first year of masters, when all that metabolic biochemistry came back, I was like, what is this? Like, I'm so clueless. So yes, it did mean that I probably would have had a bit easier if I had taken the other side. But I think in a way it was an advantage because I did decide to do a master, so I did get access to that information anyway. But I also have the other side, which does link a lot. So I am glad I chose that. But yeah, definitely it was a bit harder, I guess. Yes, I did, and I started full time doing my masters, and then I was like, this is way too much. Like, it was very packed. I was working at the same time, so I was like, there's no sense. I think when you have a master's, you already have a degree that you can rely on. Like you can have a whole career just with your undergrad and you'll be fine. So it's like, it makes no sense. I changed to part-time, did it in 2 years while I was working and getting experience, and I think that was the absolute best decision I've made. But yeah, it was straight after.
Brilliant. Thank you. You can't go back and change now, Gemma, you know that.
I just exactly the same. I knew what I was doing, that's what I'm doing, and then halfway through,
Yeah.
this is not what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's great because I also do some sports nutrition, and in my area there's so much disorder eating within the exercise area anyway. And I think it does give me an advantage in that sense because I do have a very big understanding of the whole exercise science and how our physiology works, that it's great. So
I don't know whether you've seen Zoe Griffith's Nutrition Jobs channel that's just gone out this week. It's unbelievable that it's been only live for a week, just over a week, and she's already had more than 2,000 hits. And it's just Nutrition Jobs, it's just for nutritionists. You've all got a accredited degree, which is amazing, and that really does tick some boxes for you. Even getting into dietetics, it makes a massive, massive difference. But you've also got alumni that are out there already. So connecting with them on LinkedIn, making sure that if somebody's in that role already, you think that sounds great, oh, they went to Westminster, or they've got that person in common, getting in touch with them and making those links, because it's a tiny community. When Q was at IFST, I was at a thing in the National Brewing Institute, just as somebody from AFN, and going, yeah, I'll walk in there, and then this guy was chatting to me, and I went, you working with Q Sung? And he went, yeah. And I was like, oh my god, that's so weird. She was my undergraduate student. And it's just really, really small. And the more opportunities you get to network, my top tip for networking, I don't know whether any of you guys would agree, is go on your own. Don't go with anyone else. Go to that event on your own. And then you cannot speak to your friends and go and grab coffee with your friends. You have to talk to someone else. Or you feel like a bit of a wally when you're walking around going, oh my god. So I've gone to Japan on my own, I've gone to Vienna on my own, I've had my wallet stolen in Vienna and gone, what on earth do I do? And I've met people at the conference going, I need to get home, what the heck, what am I going to do? It's incredible the things that you will push yourself into doing when you're on your own. But when you're with someone, it's too easy to go, I really want to go down there and see this, do you want to come with me? So it really does help to push you into that. But Gemma, nothing is going to get in the way of where you want to go except for yourself. So do what these guys have all done, all four of you have given that, and just go for it. If you get the opportunity, take it. If you decide it's not the opportunity for you, get something new.
Can
But
I
it's always
add?
yeah.
So you've mentioned about networking, and I think that's a fantastic opportunity. I remember when I went to my first conference, I was a student, undergrad, and if you go to a conference, you'll know who the students are, because they'll be the one who's standing in the corners, just like you. So I remember I just awkwardly went to this one student. It was a nutrition conference, and then I said, "Are you a student?" Obviously, it was a student because their badge says a student. So I just said, "Are you a student? Can I talk to you?" And then we shared and we made a connection, and then we like partnered up for the rest of the whole conference. But actually, one thing I did as a student, and I still do, is find yourself a mentor. I know that I do mentoring through the mentoring scheme here at university, and I've done that for a couple of years, but find yourself a mentor. Don't just stick with the academics. As much as the academics are lovely here, I think it's all about going outside. Find a mentor that inspires you. They can say no, that's okay, because they're probably busy, but find a mentor that inspires you, or you want to know something and they'll be able to help you. So I've had different mentors outside, whether through my PhD, through my registered nutritionist, gone to the Nutra now, doing that, have a mentor there, having a mentor now when I've gone into the big wide world. I think every mentor will help you differently. So find yourself a few mentors that you inspire, and ask those questions that you might not be able to ask, say for example in the university, because they might have different connections to you. They'll be able to know what vacancies there are coming up, or they might even hire you if they're looking for someone to help out with their research or in the clinics. If you connect with a mentor, and they'll open so many doors, and that's would be my one suggestion and top tip for you to take away today. Organised. I submit things well ahead in the deadline, so I submit things well ahead. I love spreadsheets. Spreadsheet is like the best. Since I undergrad to my masters to now, I just love spreadsheets. Actually, Trello. If you use Trello, it's a good app. It's a free online. It's Trello.
Yeah.
It's like a drop-down list. You can just play around. It's very cool. You can have it on an app, on a desktop, or whatever. I'm just very organised. For any group work that people have done, they know I'm very organised, because I would chase them. If they miss a deadline, I'm like, where is it? Or how can I? Or just knowing what I can do to help. But like you said, I've done a lot outside my study. So for exam, I just always thinking ahead. That's what I'm just very organised. I can't. I just note down to-do list, tick it off, and it will make you feel better.
Trello's quite nice as a notepad because you keep everything you've done. So when you're trying to put your CPD record together, even if you haven't done it in real time, it doesn't become like my bottom drawer that I think I'll just shove it in there and I'll get round to it at some point. But a colleague uses it, and it's designed for neurodiversity. So if you're struggling with things like ADHD or autism or whatever, and you've got all sorts of different things to fit together, it's really good for organising, and it is really a sort of copy, cut and paste all goes over to some extent. It doesn't work for me. I can't use it. I've tried because I've seen other people use it so effectively, but it doesn't work for me. But I'm using it with my son, who's got dyspraxia more than anything, so struggles to put everything together. Can do the things he can do really, really well, and focuses on the things he loves rather than having to do those other little things that he doesn't want to, and it works really well. But the one thing I would add, and I think it was actually Esther that said life-work balance. Let's not do work first, let's have life first. Because if you can be a little bit selective on the things you want to do at this time of your degrees, those of you at level 6, it's really worth thinking, this is what I want to focus on, this is what I want to showcase in my CV as I move forward, that these are my strengths. And it might not be where you end up, but you'll always find a parallel. Read a book. I'm reading Ranulph Fiennes' book at the moment, so he's crossing both poles of Antarctica. And it's amazing, you're reading it and you go, wow, I wonder what the physiology is doing right now when he's like building a place to stay in Antarctica in the ice. And you start to think about it and think, actually all that physiology is really coming in. He's eating eggs that they carried with them, boiled and frozen, for however many months. And I'm sitting there going, oh my God, that sounds vile. But they start off really liking them, and it's amazing how often nutrition and all its core science comes back and helps you to sort of almost imagine you're going to win that next pub quiz because you've got all these random bits of information in your head. So it is really starting with life first, but then thinking about how much of your work, how much of your theory helps you with that. You don't have to do as much as this crazy woman does. She does loads. She has from day one, to be completely honest. And she didn't want to give up the Westminster Nutrition Society when she left. She kept coming back for a year. Because she loved it, didn't you?
Yeah, they continue to do the PhD society.
There's a sort of addictive personality going on here, which is brilliant. But you don't have to do it all. Do what you can do well, and showcase that, and dip in and out of things. So when you've done something, you've got it on your CV, walk away, do something else. But keep life. Keep life. There's always a curve, and you want to stay between that green I can cope and that red I'm a bit stressed, but my lists are going to help me here. If you go from red to purple, you're in burnout mode, and no one wants to burn out, because otherwise you're going to need all these people to be coming in helping you with your well-being. So hugely important to think about that. And if you want to focus on your project for another 4 weeks and get it in and done, you've got time then for sleep.
I personally didn't, because when I found them, COVID started. So I think that put a bit of a thing out there. But no, then I attend some like very specific people talk, so it's not like us, thems.
Yeah. Naomi, I completely agree. Some of them are hugely intense. What is amazing is that a lot of those conferences are recorded. So the Royal Society of Physiology, for example, they record everything, they put them on YouTube. So sometimes looking at them after the event can be just as easy as trying to attend in real time. The networking side, if you can go, even if you feel completely overwhelmed and you don't want to talk to anybody, it's still worth trying to do, because then when you watch the recordings afterwards, you'll get more from them. But it's completely normal for people PhD and above to be feeling that way. You speak to an expert about their field, and you've seen us all do it, academics. Like, we get so excited. Someone wants to listen to me and what I love, and we go into overdrive. That's exactly what you get at a physiology conference. And then someone asks a question, you think, I don't even know why that's relevant. You hear the answer and start panicking. What I would tend to recommend is that you go to things that just inspire you for some reason, and go with that question in mind. What can I learn about that one thing? Not trying to take in absolutely everything, because I guarantee there's lots of people that will not admit to feeling the way that you've just admitted you're potentially going, oh my God, I don't know anything. Because I guarantee there's a lot of people in the audience feeling exactly the same way. And I would say well done to all of you for going to conferences. There's so many of them that we do feel a little bit nervous of, but you gain so much from it. And as soon as you become a little bit more aware of the field, you'll start thinking, actually, do you know what? I'm following more than I expected. So it is still really worthwhile doing.
Isn't it? So when I was an undergrad, I did many research projects on the sides. And the opportunities, so for example, you might do internships over the summer or holidays. So I did that for every single summer. I didn't really have the summer, but I enjoyed my summer of doing research. When it was a heat wave outside, I get to be in the aircon. So there are many opportunities out there. So you can always either ask your academics, ask the people you know within the institution. They're always looking for undergrads for, or a spare pair of hands to get insights. You can do that. Or you can go out of the, outside of the institution. I spent a summer interning at Sports England. So I applied for one of those. That was spend the whole summer at Sports England in the research department, conducting a research project alongside the Scale campaign. So I did that, actually number crunching from a kind of a commercial perspective. Or actually, if you have some aspiration, or you've got some academics or researchers out there who you really want to work with in the future, go and ask them. By that I mean cold email them, or connect them on social media, follow them, get to know what they like, what they don't like, what their particular interests, and then connect with them that way. Or if you're really struggling with that, ask someone you know who so happen to have a network with them. You just have to ask, unfortunately, and ask. And they're always, if you're on social media, follow some academics. They're always advertising people to help. So just ask. If you don't ask, you don't get. Yeah.
want to add to that as well, and that is so true. Like, don't be afraid to just reach out and ask. Like, my dissertation here, I actually ended up working as an assistant to a PhD student here, just because I was like, hey, I really love your project. Can I work with you? And then I found out, and they were like, yeah, cool, you can do that. So your dissertation, and it was great. And my first job as well, it was not advertised. I just found a clinic that I loved, and I was like, hey, I love what you're doing. This is how I can help. Do you have any you know, abilities? And they said no. And I said, cool, please keep me on file. Like, I really love what you do. And after a couple months, they reached out, and I was like, yeah, I'll do it. Like, I'll take it. So just ask. The worst thing that can happen is that they say no, and you're like, well, thank you for your time. Bye bye. Next one. So.
And that worked very well. Send an email. Sorry.
No,
go. No, I was saying it actually worked very well. Send an email. You don't even have to, put your face there. You're not physically stopping people. You can just send an email. If they don't reply, send them again probably. They might.
They might have an inbox
Yeah. So it actually worked. My job at Viva, I just sent an email and said I want to work for Viva. The job in the hospital was the same. I kind of reached the people working there. I said, do you have any position? I started as a volunteer. 1 week later, they opened the position. And when I work as a research assistant, the same. I just sent an email. I said, I just want to get a little bit of experience. So can I do anything? And I was just pivoting, not much. And still, it's something that you can put in your CV.
Just to follow on that, there are sometimes they don't advertise for things that you like. So I've done this a couple of times. So if you've got something that you really, really want to do, but they don't advertise it, you propose something, and then you nudge or persuade someone to help mentor you. Because if you're leading that project, they'll probably say yes. That's how I've done a couple of them in the past. Is I come up with the idea, I really want to do it, but then because it's not out there, or a job, there's nothing out there, I come up with the idea, I do it, and say, I'll do all the legwork, but can you help support me support me in terms of maybe supervising me or mentoring me or so forth. So if there's nothing, just do it. Do it for yourself.
Just get in as a volunteer and then they will open the position if they need. But at least you can start to have something extra that you can, get ahead of the people that apply. Also bear in mind, some of the role that might not be even kind of advertised as a dietetic assistant, might be some other role. Same even as a nutrition, you need to read the description and understand like it's something that I can do, it's something that is relevant for me. So try to kind of understand what is offered. Generally what I will suggest, send an email again, some of the clinic, they might not even think about having a dietetic assistant, so just say, I just graduated, I want to learn, I want to be a dietitian. Can I do anything for you? You might just end up doing some admin, but then as you start, you might start to see some client, some patient, and lots of different things. But generally, send some email, try to inquire, and also don't just focus on what is there on the website that you might find, because it might not be there.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just sorry, Rachel?
Sorry.
Another question.
I think it's Esther. Sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to add something to that question because I work as a dietetic assistant as well throughout university. And actually, if you follow people on Instagram, I'm not a huge social media person, wish I was, but if you just follow people you really like their work, so I followed loads of dietitians and nutritionists who I just thought were great as people, as much as you obviously can know someone through social media, and like their work, and I'm interested in the field they work at. And there was just a post one day from a gut health dietitian. She's a colorectal dietitian. She's been doing, or in her private practice for a while. She's worked for the NHS. She's a TV person as well. So she just put a post out, dietetic assistant, and I was like, do you know what? Sure, why not? Firstly, pays bills. Second, it's within something that I will want to see into, right? It's a business that grows. I've known that I will, at some point, will want to have my own business. So apply, do the interview, but follow people. It actually resulted in a lot of good stuff for me. I got to volunteer through her throughout the pandemic within another community program. But I also, again, for me, it was super beneficial to see behind how the business operates, because I was on the admin side, right? I was part of her business as the dietetic assistant, but I also got to shadow her. She also kind of became my mentor, and that is super, because I have got actually an insight into gut health that I probably didn't before, and I was never super into it, but it's again just another piece that if you're at all interested in, is going to give you extra. So try to build that kind of communication through social media as well. Follow people, be there, check their posts, and just like be open for opportunities, even if it's not exactly what you want to go for. See how it works, and then you might learn super much.
Social media, send an email, and also LinkedIn is great. You can connect with people. Social media, you can understand a little bit what they do, and if it's something that you actually like. Yeah, no, I never not any though. I just send an email, and it's brilliant.
More like old-fashioned, like rather, you know, go in person and hand your CV and.
No.
Okay.
I mean, not for me. Maybe
Yeah.
it worked for you.
I
And
do that.
since the pandemic, everyone's kind of okay with, online as well, so I think it's much more kind of accepted that we had a pandemic and everyone had to be online, so absolutely fine. I think.
I do both. Online, yes, but I don't really want to spam people when I know now as an academic you have your email just keeps going. So if they're very busy, do not send them an email. The best thing I find is that going to places that you know they are going to be there, and then you go and ask a question, you build that rapport with them, and then you follow it up after the event or the meeting. That's how I would do it. That's more effective than send them a cold email with no follow-ups, because they can't imagine who you are.
LinkedIn's brilliant, because LinkedIn, you can tell if it's a professional background, you can see their CV. If your LinkedIn profile is working for you, they shouldn't need to wait for your CV, they should be able to go and find yours. And it should all be there, and we should be using that to sort of market yourself. Social media doesn't always work, and we know that we've got sort of twisted profiles on there, so we have to be really careful. And it's absolutely fine for you not to be active on social media and to choose not to do that. I think Esther mentioned that earlier. You can be completely private on your own details on social media, but still see what other people are doing if you want to. A little stock rest and a profile there. But LinkedIn is amazing if you start liking what other things you see up on there. And it's amazing how many people have reached out to me recently through my disability work. And then all of a sudden I'm sort of emailing people off going, right, be an entrepreneur with a disability, this is what course you should be going on. Free courses are advertised all the time, lots of them are recorded as well. But it does get your profile out there, and amazingly you'll get asked to go and speak at different things. Our online systems with the Engage team are incredible. Like the people that work in the learning development in the library are great when you're doing an academic piece of work, but the employability team do fantastic things, whether or not it's getting help with your LinkedIn profile, help with your cover letter, and help with writing that email to know what you're going to send out to people can really work. And if you're looking on LinkedIn, you can see where the connections are. So that can really work really, really, really well.
Okay, thank you so much.
And you can also use the LinkedIn to connect to the business, and as you kind of following one, the other one, they just gonna come up, and you can see how they're related. So you can see more job opportunity and what you can move.
Perfect, thank you.
Something I've always do if I'm reaching out by emails, just don't send an email be like, hey, I want to work with you. Like,
No.
cool. Like, just share a little bit. Also, don't make it long, because what you said. If I see a long email, I'm like, no. And I personally always end up with, if I don't hear back by this day, I will reach out again, or I will give you a call, which sounds annoying, but works out, you know? Sometimes it'd be like, hey, no, there's nothing. I'm like, that's fine. Lovely meeting you. And I always just attach my CV or something, just so if they have an opening, they have something immediately they can scroll through or have a bit of an idea.
I'm like you. Sometimes I kind of losing my focus. I don't know what to do next. But you know, you can still apply that knowledge, whatever you learn, and apply for something else. But then it's on you. You need to kind of understand what you really like, and then from there move on. That is my opinion.
think what you described is like my PhD life. There's ups and downs. I normally when I do talks about my PhD experience, it's like Q's graph of doom. You have ups and downs, peaks and troughs. But one thing I do quite a bit is the procrastination, right? I'm sure you all procrastinate as well. But I don't procrastinate for no reason. I do active procrastination. So by that, yes, I've got my day job, but actually all my procrastination, they actually lead to something meaningful. So I might be working on a project, writing a paper, that's not my PhD, writing a paper to then be published, or working with someone else externally to develop a careers development program, or another project that's actually meaningful to it, that will come back to what I'm doing in my day job. So I think coming back to your question is find something that's meaningful to you, which you can continue that motivation. When you finish that one project, it'll come back to your main task. It should give you that motivation, give you that resilience, because by the time if you've done something, you'll be like, oh no, I should have spent that time on what was the task at hand, because the deadline is coming up, because then you'll feel that motivation to finish that. So I call it active procrastination. I do other things that are meaningful, but still contribute to my skills development.
I procrastinate doing nothing. I wish, I swear I wish. Trust me, I think the most I can do is probably pay my bills and be like, yeah, I had such a productive time, and no, I really didn't. But something I do that does help me a lot with that is that when I am in that state that I'm very motivated, I'm like, oh my god, I love this, I love what I do, I write something. So I spend some time writing, why is this important to me? Why do I want to do this? And then when I'm in that state of not wanting to do anything, I go back and read it, and it's kind of like my motivated self talking to my don't want to do anything self. And it does work as well. Like, it's just been like, oh, okay, yeah, I might not absolutely love it right now, but I know what's important. Like, it's there. I wrote this for me, and it does matter. And trying to find something that you just enjoy what you actually do, not just the actual goal. Like, I think when you start, I don't know if you guys feel ready, when I started the undergrad, I was like, well, I have to be a dietitian. Like, that's what I have to do. And then, actually, third year, we had the opportunity just before COVID, which was great, to go to Greece and shadow a dietitian. And then I saw it, I was like, I hate this. Like, why do I have to, like, no. I was like, I can't see myself doing this. Like, the title of, like, oh my god, I'm a dietitian, or oh my god, I'm a doctor, I was like, that sounds great, but the actual doing of it, I was like, that does not gonna bring me any joy. So trying to find area that actually, what you actually do day to day, even the small things, it's like, okay, that I actually enjoy this. Like, I see myself enjoying this. Yeah.
I think that's a lovely question actually as well, Sandra, to focus all of you on. It's actually completely normal to have those down times and days where you just can't get anything done. I'm a list writer, so if I've got a list and then I can tick things off, I almost will start with the things I think, right, I can do that. So if I'm having a day where I just can't get anything done, my list will be there. Do you know what? All I'm going to do is look at my emails. I'm going to add to my list. I'm not going to do anything with them. I'm just going to add the new things, but at least it'll say 0. So do something that you know you can get finished. And then eventually when you start, you think, right, actually, I've only got half an hour, what can I do? I can get through those things. Sometimes it's as simple as actually just picking up a paper that you want to read, or reading a bit of your book, or for me it's going to the gym. It's always like, I could sit here and procrastinate and not achieve anything for 2 hours, or I can go for a walk. I can go to the gym and do a HIIT class, and when I come back, I'm always more productive. You feel really guilty when you've got to make dinner at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, because you just hate the thought of going to another meeting, and it's like, oh my god. But actually it makes you much more productive. And we don't work 9 to 5 anymore. We work when suits us. So allow yourself that flexibility in everything you're doing. And if it is just connecting with people on LinkedIn, why not? You know, that's work. That's getting you selling your story. It's reading things that are relevant at that point in time. And so it doesn't need to always be, I will work on this time. I always thought when I did my PhD that if I work 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, I'd get it finished. I worked longer than 9 to 5 Monday to Friday on my PhD, but I was also doing other bits for other people, and I couldn't have done the way Q works, because I had a huge commitment of I need to earn money. I needed to have that. I couldn't have done all the internships, all the voluntary experience, because I just simply couldn't have afforded to do it. And some of you will have to be able to balance that up as you're going forward, and it's absolutely okay not to have quite as much shiny, wonderful, sparkling things on your CV as the next person, because your story's different, and what makes you unique how you overcome some of the challenges that you have, whether that's family, work, travel into university or whatever else. It still makes it part of your story. And so don't feel that it all has to be perfect. You're allowed to have those down times. And you are allowed, but as long as you go to the gym and don't reach for the bottle of wine. Or do both. That's what I would say.
I will say that don't think just, at least I'm talking to myself, don't think that because we're sitting here we have it figured out. Like, I remember being in that sit and having a like similar talk, and I was like, oh my god, like, and now that I'm coming back, I was like, if they knew what I know, like, I had no clue. Like, it's okay to not know exactly what you're gonna do next. You're gonna be fine. Like, just try different things. The worst thing that can happen is that you actually don't enjoy it and you're gonna find a different path, and it's okay. Like, no one has everything figured out. That's not a thing.
It's exactly the same. I would say try everything. Like, even if you can volunteer just for a day, it can really give you an overview and understanding what they do. And just extra experience, and it's just gonna help to understand what you want to do. But if you don't try, you don't know. And that is the best advice.
Excellent. Thank you. She's trying to decide which one to talk about. You can tell.
You know me too well, Claire. Okay, 3 things. One is be you. You are you. You are not me. I'm definitely not you. You have your own skills, you have your own experience, and each one of us, I think today, we all have different stories. So first of all, it's be yourself, be you. I'm sensing that you're going to tweet that, you're going to Instagram that, whatever. Second one is, life is, or actually your career or experience is not a linear route, it's wiggly. I've learned that especially from my master's and PhD. You think you are going to succeed in X, Y, and Z, you're not. You are going to do A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then come back to X, Y, Z. And similarly, if you're choosing what masters to do, or I had the choice when I applied for masters to do different ones, or you want to do PhDs, or go into different careers, you might do other things before you come back to your aspiration. It might take a few more years, but it's not. There's no linear route there. It's going to be wiggly. And finally, think outside the box. Push up. By this I mean push yourself to do the things that you don't necessarily think you could have done or you would do. By this I mean think about skills that you have the weaknesses. So if you want to do more science communication, why not go and find an opportunity in science communication? That's something I've done actually. I've got a podcast on the side, nothing to do with science obviously, with student engagement and pedagogy, but that's the thing I want to do. I really like the student engagement and the kind of the whole communication, so I brought them together to have a podcast. That's just one of many examples, but push outside the box, think widely, because you are just that one tiny thing in the community, but what makes you stand out is you doing other things that matters to you, which comes back to you are being yourself, you have your own identity.
Thank you. And what about you, Esther? Have you got something to finish this with?
Yes, I think mine kind of connects back to last question as well, which is, I think you just need to remember that if you don't allow yourself time to learn who you are and what's okay and what's not okay, and build your boundaries and learn to say no, not to overpopulate your calendar so you have no time whatsoever and your body is in a constant fight or flight and is like in a frenzy all the time, which I literally am speaking from experience. Please listen to me. Literally, you need to give yourself time. It's okay not to be motivated all the time, and our toxic hustle culture that we live in will tell you that you constantly have to be achieving things, doing something productive, getting to the end of your to-do list. Not always. There are some of us who love that, and it's absolutely fine to go with that, and a to-do list makes you excited. Go with it, by all means. Cool. But you need to also give yourself time to almost allow yourself to be who you are, and if that's not you, you shouldn't conform to that just because that's what's societally accepted and that's what everything tells us to be, right? Because it's absolutely fine not to, and if things happen slower, that's your own pace. It doesn't have to be the same as everyone's. I know you're at uni and it's really hard to like go, okay, I'm just gonna slow down and just, you know, take it easy because like there's like a deadline coming up and blah. But try to find those times when you can literally just not do anything that is productive. Try. Honestly, it is so good and it's so useful and it's so needed for you to be able to calm down and really just learn who you are. What makes you happy? What makes you absolutely like freak out and go, no, not even gonna go there ever? Like really need to kind of give yourself that opportunity, because when you're constantly running, that doesn't happen the same way, and you then may start something that, you know, I don't think that you will regret anything because it's all opportunity to learn, but you might start something that you have to learn kind of the hard way, that is not the thing for you. And why learn the hard way if you can just, you know, learn the easy way? So yeah, take time for yourself, guys. Just slow down a little bit. Slow living is cool. Look it up.
So there we go. We're ending on an interceptive awareness thing, which is one of the things I've massively learned this year from Charlie's project, actually. So again, from a student, that this whole yoga dimension and actually allowing yourself that space, not necessarily even doing the stretches as well as you could, but just giving your brain the time to slow down and to be quiet and to start thinking, what is right for me? What am I going to do? So I'd like to thank you all. I've learned a lot, and I always love hearing your stories, and thankfully it's not all bad about Westminster when you come back to talk to us. But no, it's been really, really wonderful, and thank you all for giving up your time to share with these guys your experiences. And I'd love to invite you all to stay for something to eat, coffee, a conversation without me listening in. I'll go and hide so you can say what you really think afterwards. But I'd like to just say thank you. Big round of applause for our